Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. Today I am reviewing Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. Published by LucasArts and developed by The Collective, Emperor's Tomb was released on the Xbox on February 25, 2003, and later saw a PS2 and PC release. It is also backwards compatible on newer Xbox consoles, where most of the footage was recorded today. Today's video was recommended by all of these people. Thank you so much for the recommendation. Indiana Jones is a beloved series of movies, especially the first three movies in the franchise, all of which I love as well. Each of those three movies is an excellent adventure with its own quirks and highlights. All of them are full of action and seemingly would fit well into video game form. And they have been making video games out of Indiana Jones stories since the release of Raiders of the Lost Ark. What's cool though is that some of the video games do not follow the plot of the movies and instead explore the Indiana Jones universe. Emperor's Tomb is one of those games that has no ties to the movies, exploring an all-new piece of ancient history and the adventures that come with it. As an Indiana Jones fan, I was excited to hop into this story for this review. I've played a little bit of this game before, but not enough to beat it, so now is my chance to go in depth into this Indiana Jones adventure and see if it was a great time. So let's swing into Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. In the Emperor's Tomb, you play as the titular character, Indiana Jones. Not just as a look-alike, but a pretty good rendition of Harrison Ford for the 6th generation. Set in the 1930s, the game starts out relatively normal. Indy is exploring ruins in Ceylon and comes across the idol of Koruwatu. Along the way, the plot thickens and Nazis show up looking for the exact same thing. Indy does escape but is later propositioned by Marshal Kaitit and Mei Ying. They inform him that there are more pieces to this idol called the Heart of the Dragon, an artifact buried with the first emperor of China. Indiana must collect these before the Nazis. Along the way, you go all across the globe, meet many different people, and run into some insane enemies. The plot that is served up here is a perfect Indiana Jones story. It's full of globe-trotting, espionage, fighting, and beating up Nazis. It captures the essence of what makes a great Indiana Jones plot. It's fun to travel along with, and I can tell the team at The Collective really cared about making this game fit nicely into the universe without feeling the need to make it a direct copy of a movie. It's original and is a great groundwork for fun gameplay and variety. Since you are traveling around everywhere, there's a lot more opportunities to explore new places and keep the pacing strong. At one point you could be on a castle in Prague dropping chandeliers on enemies, and next thing you know, you are underwater swimming with sharks and ruins. I seriously never got bored with this one because it's always thinking of new places to go and look at. The twists are nice and all of the bad guys are entertaining. It's a great package and a nice plot that feels like a huge blockbuster. That being said, the game's gameplay truly shines. The opening of this game sets you up perfectly for the rest of it. When you start in Ceylon, you get a good feeling for Indy's movements, and there's a lot of movement options. He has the ability to do giant leaps, he can lift himself up over ledges, he can climb across ledges, whip across gaps, and surprisingly more. The tutorial sets you up to try all of these in a row and at a good pace. I rather like the pacing of each section. Instead of having one big level set in Prague or Hong Kong, each level is broken down into smaller sections. It allows you to explore smaller, more intricately detailed variations of each locale. This game shows that the developer was skilled in combining movement options and levels, and it creates an enjoyable experience everywhere you go. One example is in the Golden Lotus Opera House, which is broken down into a giant fighting area at first, and what starts as a giant brawl leads to a slow crawl through backstage hallways, and a finale having you use various methods to climb up scaffolding. It felt like no matter where I went, there was always going to be some kind of use of everything in Indy's arsenal. Now with more moves comes a bit more of an obtuse control scheme. One that takes a little to get used to, but once you get used to it, it really does stick with you. In the game, there is a wheel for your inventory that you have to scroll through, and this can slightly slow down the game. However, a cool feature that this game has is allowing you to quickly swap to any item you need by pressing the Y button if you're near an object. Being able to jump on platforms and quickly switch to your whip made platforming sections much faster. Platforming is simple to understand and feels great. Some jumps seem designed for barely making it and just grabbing the ledge, which adds a thrilling feeling. The platforming sections are enjoyable, it feels satisfying to navigate ledges and slide into pits. Feels like how Tomb Raider plays, which is funny because I'm sure Tomb Raider was inspired by Indiana Jones. So if you like Tomb Raider games, this one will be right up your alley, especially with its great platforming. There is always some kind of action going on in this game, and it's all full of variety, and that keeps it strong. The fighting is rather simple though, because it's just a 2-button fighting system, and it feels kind of like a normal brawler for the 6th gen. Enemy variety isn't anything crazy, but I do think it gets the job done. I think the game wants to focus on something other than combat though. The combat feels like a smooth transition to the next platforming section or puzzle. It's the same with the shooting. You get pistols and shotguns to use, but it's not anything spectacular. It's an easy way to take out a group, and that's about it. I'm glad that they took the game into more of a platforming and puzzle-based experience though. The puzzles are quite simple when compared to the Indiana Jones point-and-click counterparts, but I still think they're really solid. There's one later in the game where you must position a clock at the right times based on paintings you see. Some of these paintings will have a sun or a moon in a certain position, or another will have Roman numerals on display. It's a fun way to work your brain while playing, but it won't stop you dead in your tracks thinking about how to solve it. These puzzles are littered everywhere, and it's a great time. Even the water levels are surprisingly great, and even one of the game's biggest highlights comes from a water level. You get thrown into a massive underwater ruin. There are 4 coins scattered and hidden around that you must swim and find. For one, you must climb and platform your way there. Another requires you to find a demolition charge and blow up an underwater wall while avoiding sharks. One thing I really enjoyed was just how much there was to do, and how fresh it stayed throughout the entire playtime. The Emperor's Tomb is always giving you something new to try in some amazingly designed levels, all the while handling excellently on the controller. It's a fun ride from start to finish. With the diversity that the game supplies, it gives you some excellent environments to look at. It looks crisp and all have a great amount of detail. For comparison, I have footage from the original Xbox as well, and it looks amazing there as well. The upgrade on the Series X is very much welcome though, and it has a really great aspect ratio and crisper definition. Even on the original Xbox, the character models all look solid, and the level design had obvious care put into it. I especially love the levels like Prague, where it's cold and desolate, but when you reach the roof of the castle, you get to see some amazing skyboxes. There is a later underwater cave area that is another standout. As you swim through the water, you see destroyed ruins with paintings and fallen columns. When you get out of the water, you have the chance to see a huge cave system with great draw distances. It's specific level elements like this that kept me addicted to the game. I wanted to see what areas the developers could flesh out next. Every level has its own distinct design, and it never seems to repeat itself, later setting you up to always have a new experience. The details thrown in makes each environment look great to play in, all looking nice and crisp on the original Xbox, and it shines even brighter on the Series X. One of the most iconic elements of Indiana Jones is its music. The Raiders March is one of the best pieces of movie music, and it's well used here. You'll hear it when you swing over certain gaps or fight groups of enemies. It never plays so much that it becomes annoying though. The composer here is riffing on John Williams' work and does a great job. The original music feels like something ripped right out of the movies, and it's perfect. All of the sound effects work effectively as well, the whip cracks to the gunshots, it's a well-made environment. The voice acting isn't the best aspect of the game though. I think the guy they got to do Harrison Ford isn't a perfect match, but he does capture the spirit of Indiana well, even if the game likes to have him repeat a few lines over and over. There are a few side characters that have some fairly lackluster performances. It comes off as monotone, and I would have liked an Indiana Jones game to have characters with stronger personalities, yet this is one of the few issues in an otherwise excellent game. In conclusion, Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb was a standout experience. One of its huge positives across the board was just how much variety it delivered while keeping it all top quality. The platforming and puzzle elements are well integrated into the game to always keep it entertaining, and it's so well done. All of the beautifully made locales keep the pacing strong and have some really nice detail in them. The voice acting might be one of the weaker aspects, but it's not a big deal when compared to the rest of the great audio, and Indiana himself is voiced well. This is a perfect adventure game for Indiana Jones fans, and I think it would even be fun for someone who has never experienced the movies. It's an excellent adventure title on the original Xbox, and I highly recommend you check it out. And on my ranking list, this is the 63rd game covered for the original Xbox, and I'm going to put it in at number 12. I put it below Dead or Alive 3 because I would rather replay Dead or Alive 3, but I put it above Splinter Cell. It's really close, but I think consistently I had more fun throughout all of the Emperor's Tomb and the variety that it delivers. But that wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like as it helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe if you like the content and you want to keep up with more retro Xbox stuff. Comment below with what you think I should cover next, or if you have any Indiana Jones memories. Thank you to all of my YouTube channel members. I really appreciate the support, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.